I'm Jessica Bell. Are we on? Is this working? All right. Okay. That was really strange. But hey, it's it's live television. When it gets frozen, what can you do? So, like I said, I'm Jessica Bell from My Wine School, where it is wine your way. Everyone say hello. I don't know if it kicked people off the chat as well, but if you're here, say hello. Let me know that you're here as well. And everyone say hi to Skip, my wingman. He's in the room.
Hi, everyone.
Skip says hi everyone. A Freudian slip, right? And if you don't know how to say hello, then let me just take you through that really quick, because we want this to be more of a conversation. So if you're watching this live, off to the right you'll see where we actually make this a conversation. And under the word audience, just type something in there. And once you press return, it'll take you to this screen. If you have a username and password for Ustream, you can sign in right there. If not, you can sign up right here on the spot. It takes 2 minutes. No, it takes like 2 seconds. There are 4 to 5 different fields you can fill in, and boom, you're part of the conversation. So it doesn't take long. Go ahead and sign in and say hello. I see Brian says he's still here. My mother, of course, faithful mother, is still here as well. So today we are doing WineCAST number 7. And this is for at the level of wine newbies. And wine newbies are people who are new to wine, but it's also great for anyone who wants to build a solid foundation for wine. And this week, what are we doing in our wine newbie class? We're actually starting at the beginning and doing an intro to wine tasting. And we'll be using Hahn GSM, which I'll explain exactly what that means later, from Central Coast, California, and the vintage is 2010. Now, as a lot of you know, my mom is very concerned that you don't drink enough or quick enough. So go ahead and get those bottles open and get started drinking. That's the most important part of all of this, is that we're drinking and having a good time. So here's the label that will be, the label from the bottle we'll be drinking tonight. This label is easy to read. It's what I love about the California and more of the New World wines, is that the labels are like airport novels. They're just easy to read. They're you can just fly right through them. And if you look at this label, you see that the producer is Hahn Winery. And then at the bottom of the label, you're going to see that it says Central Coast, which is in California. It stretches from about San Francisco down to Santa Barbara. And the vintage is 2010. Now, some of you are probably saying, okay, I know who produces it, I know where it's from, but what's the grape? I'm used to seeing the grape on my label. Well, that GSM down there looks suspiciously like grapes, and you're right, but it's not just one grape. It's actually an acronym for 3 different grapes. And these grapes are commonly blended in France. And you might be saying, well, why are they doing this? Why are they putting an acronym for 3 grapes? Well, the reason is in America, we tend to understand the style of wine based on the grape varietal. And so when we have a blend, we're kind of at a loss for understanding it. But this particular blend has a great history of making fantastic wines, at least 100 years, if not more. And so what this producer has said this is a great combination of grapes, Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre. And I want my consumers to like it too, but I'm going to be lost if I don't put something on that the consumer can associate with the grape. So what they're trying to do is create the same association with GSM as you would with, say, one grape. So we've got GSM as our grapes. And what's really interesting is if you go onto Hahn's website, they have a description for this wine. And what they say in the description is what I've put off to the side of this label. Grenache, they says, brings the berry and spice to the wine. The Syrah provides color and tannins. And the Mourvèdre provides acidity and structure. Now, it's really interesting. All these words are going to be the basis of the words that we explore today when we're doing an intro to wine tasting. So we just want to dive in and get going on to the actual tasting of the wine. But before we do that, let's pull up our first Wine IQ. And what Wine IQs are wine interactive questions that are designed to get you interacting with us, to join the conversation. So here it is, Wine IQ number 1. GSM is an acronym for A, 1 white grape from France, B, 3 red grapes from France, C, Grenache, Syrah, or Mourvèdre, which, extra credit, there's something misspelled on that one. Get extra credit if you can find which word is misspelled. And D, both B and C. Now, while you're thinking about that and letting us know what you think is the right answer, let's dive into the idea or the process of wine tasting. And the first thing that we do is we engage our sense of sight, the appearance. Now, if you look here, you see, okay, appearance, red, white, or pink. Now this is a perfect example of our cardinal rule at my wine school. It's keep it simple. Kiss. Lots of kissing going on here. So keep it simple. It doesn't get simpler than this. White, red, or pink. I mean, you're all going to get the right answer. And it might sound silly to start that simple, but there's a couple reasons why we do that. First, if we start simple, then we can build upon this knowledge that we already are confident we know. But also, I believe in the practicality of wine tasting and not the showiness of it. So at this level, at our wine newbie level, it's really, we have other important things to focus on. And not only that, but I think at this point, the gradations of color aren't really relevant to what we are going to talk about here. So just start simple. Now, if we take a look at this wine, it's easy, right? It's red, everyone. Okay, I know you all had that one. I have all the faith in the world that you guys knew that one was red. Now, let's get back to the wine IQ number 1. And I see that I see someone saying C, which Fiona, you are right. But I also see Fiona came back and said, oops, D. Yes, it was a tricky one. I tricked you guys. Both C and D are correct. The Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre, which is missing an E between the V and the D, sorry about that, guys, is a correct answer. But so is B, 3 red grapes from France. Good job. All right, so we mentioned the appearance first. And as I said, you start simple, but feel free to go further than that. What you're doing is you're building a foundation to develop the skill of wine tasting. So if you want to talk about gradations of color, by all means, go for it. No one's holding you back. So one reason why we taste wine rather, is to engage all of our senses. And it's something that we rarely do. We often, drink wine, but we don't stop to taste it. And drinking wine is when you're with your friends and family, and the focus are your friends and family. And the wine is there to really complement or enhance the experience. When we taste wine, the focus is now on the wine. And we really want to tune in to what we're seeing, what we're smelling, and what we're tasting. And what that's going to help us do is to really refine the skill of observation. And so it's not only going to help you better understand and appreciate your wines, but I promise you, it'll help you better appreciate your food. When you go outdoors, anytime you take a big, fresh breath of air, you're gonna better appreciate it. It's just you're gonna be more aware of the world around you. So, yes, I'm saying that drink wine so you better appreciate the entire world. I know I'm coming from a bit of a wine-centric glasses here, but I really do think it can enhance every part of your life. Lots of parts of your life, right, Skip?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, the next step now. Love that. All right, I love to see that. Yes, I love. I've talked to a lot of sommeliers and wineries, and when they take wine and they make it a part of our life, they fit it in, and the analogies to life are just so they're so strong. And so I might do that from time to time just because I can't resist. So I apologize if I get a little too poetic, guys. So the next thing we do is we engage our nose, we engage our sight, and the next thing is we want to stick our nose in the glass. And again, we're going to start simple. So what do you smell? Fruit, earth, spice, or other. These are just starting points for you to focus in on. And I think fruit is fairly straightforward. People know when they smell fruit. Earth and spice, I think, kind of gives people a little bit of a curveball. Think of it this way. Spice is going to be anything that, let's say sweet spices, like cinnamon, clove, vanilla, chocolate, or pungent spices like black pepper or curry. And then earth is going to be anything other than fruit from the earth. So things like vegetables or vegetal, herbaceous, floral, minerally, stony. Those are all things that would fit under earth. So let's start with that. You guys give it a smell and tell me what you think. Do you smell fruit, earth, or spice on this wine? And you can start there, and then if you want, you can get more specific. But what we're trying to do here is develop your ability to communicate what you like and what you don't like. So if all you need is earth, let's say you love earthy wines. If that's all you need, then you just stop there. I like earthy wines, you could say. And that helps get you a little closer to getting a wine you like. But if you want to develop that skill more, you can. That's why we've got Wine Explorer and Wine Guru as well. The whole idea of this is you find what fits your objectives for your wine experience. So let's see. I see Stephanie is saying that she thinks it has all three, so fruit, earth, and spice. I'd agree with that. Minnie, my daughter, said spice. You guys will I'll have to post this video that I have. My daughter loves wine. Now I should be careful because I'm gonna, the Child Protection Agency is gonna come get me. She doesn't actually drink it. She is 18 months. She doesn't actually drink it, but she does cry if she doesn't get to smell it. And we say to her, what do you smell? Fruit, earth, or spice? And she always says spice. So I'll have to post that. I'll post it for y'all. You can see of course I think it's cute. It's my daughter. But let's see, spice and earth and some fruit in the background is what some are saying. So yeah, this has, when I smell it, okay, I say to myself, okay, let's start with fruit. Now I would say to myself, I want to get more specific. So do I smell black fruit, red fruit, or blue fruit? I actually get a lot of blue fruit on this wine. In fact, not only blue fruit, but like a really sweet blue fruit, like blueberry pie filling. Okay, and that sounds really kooky, right? Or if I say a spice, I get a little bit of like a woody spice, but it's not cedar, it's more like sandalwood. And like I said, you might think I'm absolutely bonkers for saying these things, but let me tell you that this took me a long time to get there. And I remember starting out with this and getting so frustrated with wine tasting. I was in a room and someone would say blueberry pie filling. And I'd be like, what? Like, do I suck at this? I can't get that. There's no way I'm going to get that. There's no way I'm ever going to get that. And, I wish someone would have told me to keep it simple. Just keep it simple, have fun with it, enjoy the process, because it is a skill that you do develop over time. And like I said, only develop it as far as you want. The most important thing here is obviously to have fun with it. And talking about fun, the best part is drinking it. So let's get on to the actual drinking. I saw violets. Someone mentioned violets. Definitely. I smell some violets on this wine. So the next part is drinking it. Go ahead and take a sip. We'll take a sip from my mom so that she's nice and happy with the quantities of consumption at this wine tasting. And go ahead and take a sip. And we're going to be talking about sweetness and acid, and body and tannin. And we went over these 4 things in the previous WineCast. So if they're still a little hazy, go back and visit WineCast number, I think it's 7 and 6, or 6 and 5, although one's kind of missing at this point. We'll get it up there. But we want to start with sweetness. So you take a sip, again, take another sip, okay? And what you want to think is there sugar in the wine? So let's talk about the next, or the first thing, which is sweetness. So if there's little to no sugar, it's going to be dry. Now, if it's a dessert wine, we'll call it sweet. And those are 2 good starting points. But there's a lot of wines that I think are regularly consumed that aren't sweet like your dessert wine, but they're not dry like a dry wine. They're not sweet, but they've got a little sweetness. And those we call off-dry. And some really typical examples of off-dry wines would be wines made from the grape of Riesling, or say a wine from the region of Vouvray in France. Those are some good examples to kind of give you some perspective on what off-dry means. So what do you guys think about this wine? Go ahead, take another sip. And tell me what you think. If you think this is dry, off-dry, or sweet. Now, as you're telling me what you think, Let's go to the next thing that we want to focus in on is acid. And again, we're going to keep it simple. Now, first, what is acid? You know, I mean, we actually went through it in the WineCAST before, but what it is it makes your mouth water. It's the sensation you get when you have a lemon or vinegar. And in fact, to understand these qualifications of crisp and flat, think about acid as giving your wine life. And it makes it bounce from your palate. It makes it stand up in your mouth. And a good example of that is the next time you have a salad, take a bowl of lettuce, put olive oil on it. Take a bite. It'll taste flat. You'll see that flatness, sensation of flatness. Then add a little vinegar, adds life. It adds bounce to the salad. So you can see that difference in flat and crisp. So go ahead and take a sip and tell me what you think in terms of acid as well. Now I'll go back to, while you're doing that, we keep things rolling here at My Wine School. We got 25 minutes to get you to all be wine experts, so we got to keep everything moving. But in terms of sweetness, I saw dry. Yeah, this is a dry wine. Most of the wines out there in the market qualify as dry, and this is a dry one. It's deceiving, though, sometimes, because this is a very fruity wine. Weaver mentioned blackberries. I think they were mentioning it on the nose, but you taste a lot of black fruit on the palate. So we might say, I taste fruit, so it must be sweet. But last week we went over that you can have fruit in your wine, but it's still dry. So this is a dry wine. And I'm seeing nothing for acid. Is anyone coming in on acid, Skip?
No comments.
No comments.
Not yet.
And it doesn't surprise me. And the reason is because these types of things are like, well, I don't know. And it's because if you've never focused in on these ideas, it's really difficult to know. What you want to start to do is to create a spectrum of experiences from which you can compare your different experiences. And that takes time. So this one, I see some people now coming in. I see not a lot of acid. I see more flat than crisp. So I don't think it's high in acid, but it's not also flat. And Weaver, that's a great comment. This is not necessarily flat. What we want to use this concept as is to point out when it seems a part of the extreme. So very crisp or very lacking in acid. And this is definitely more towards the flat. If you take a sip and let it sit in your mouth for a little, it's just gonna sit there. You know, so it has more of a flatness than a crispness. And that's very common for red wines. Some red wines have great acid, but when we compare the whole world of white wines to the whole world of red wines, white wines are naturally higher in acid. So they're naturally a little crisper than our red wines. Good. Okay, so let's move on then to the next concept, which is body. Now what you want to do is use your tongue as a balance, as a scale. And take a sip and think, is it light, like skim milk? Or is it full, like, say, cream or whole milk? And so you can do one of the extremes, or you could do medium, too. So somewhere in the middle there. So go ahead and take a sip and see what you think. And again, it seems really simple, and then you do it without these experiences where you focus in on it before, it might be a little foreign to you. But the good news is the remedy is drinking more. And now actually that you know these concepts, you can do this every time you have a glass of wine. Even when you're drinking wine with your friends, you can take a split second out of your conversation to say, is this flat? Is this crisp? Is this a light body or a full body? So now that you're starting to focus in on that, you'll start to create this really great spectrum of experiences. So I see medium, full, medium to medium plus. Oh, I see some advanced people in the crowd here. Medium, I'd say 1 to 2% milk. Perfect. You guys are spot on. This is more along the lines of medium. This is, it's definitely not light. Okay, so if I were to go one way, it would be more towards full. But this is a medium-bodied wine. It's nice and soft. Really round as well. So you can talk about texture as well. And speaking of texture, the next thing is tannin. And we talked about this last week. So again, if this seems a little not solid, go back and watch last week's. But we're going to use 3 different parameters for this one. It's either none, and usually white wines have no tannin, so we'd say none for white wines. Or for reds, we could either say low or high. We'll reserve high for those wines that really have a lot of tannin. And what is tannin? Well, tannin is a component in wines that really will dry out your mouth. And you'll feel it on your top gums here, and then also in your mouth on your tongue. And what it'll do is it'll create this sandpaper feel in your mouth. So go ahead and take a sip. And I already see some things coming in. People are mentioning low. And yes, you guys are spot on with this. The tannins are on the low side, definitely not on the high side. You kind of get a little bit of that sandpaper rough feeling, but it doesn't stick around. It's not noticeably high. So yes, we get a little bit of tannin, but it's on the low side. So, why do we focus on these things? There's all these things. There's acid, tannin, body, sweetness. What we're trying to do is to help you start to create a palate memory. So what the heck is a palate memory, right? If I tell you to think about cinnamon or spearmint, you can actually start to taste those flavors in your mouth. So you already have a palate memory for certain very distinct flavors. What I want to help you do is start to create that for the wines you drink. And that way you'll be able to tell us why you like it, or tell us why you don't like a wine. Be able to really describe your wines well. I mean, think about how many times you've gone out, had a great wine, the next day you love the wine. If you can even remember the label, someone will ask you, well, why'd you like it? I don't know, I just liked it. Well, now you'll be able to say, well, because you know what? It had low tannin, lots of fruit, a full body, and what am I forgetting? And it was dry, right? Okay. So as you can see, it's wine speak. It's almost like going into a coffee shop and being like, I'll have a tall, skinny latte. I don't know what else they say. What else do they ask for, Skip?
Low fat.
Low fat, right? So it's the same idea. In a couple words, you're able to tell people exactly what you like. And then also, if you want to develop your ability to do food and wine pairings, then this is also something really important. These are the basic building blocks of food and wine pairings. For instance, if you have white fish, you want to make sure you steer clear of tannins. Or if you have a salad with high acid in the salad, you want a high acid wine. So if you can't identify those things, you're going to have trouble finding wines with those specific descriptions. And then finally, as a consumer, you want to know quality. And this process will help you better understand the quality of the wine as well. So as you can see, there's a whole lot for you to learn, which is why coming to these WineCasts are going to help you become a better wine taster and enable you to be a better consumer of wine and enjoy them more. So next week we can start with this wine speak when we learn about reading Italian wine labels, and that's next week. Skip, do I have any questions so far?
Fiona asked, do people smell differently? Big question.
So Fiona asked, do people smell differently? And yes, definitely. Smelling and tasting, for that matter. The thing is the way we smell and taste are different because first of all, it's a culmination of all of our experiences in our life. And things that we smell or taste a lot, we're better able to smell it. And also, we also have different abilities to smell different aromas. So some people can pick up blackberries in a heartbeat. Someone else, that concentration of blackberry aroma needs to be a lot more concentrated for them to even smell it. So we all smell differently, which is why we're going to come up with different answers. But hopefully all of us tasting together helps trigger that part of our brain which will help increase our ability to do it. And that's why tasting in a group like this is really, really helpful. Hopefully you guys saw a lot of comments on there that helped you find more aromas or helped you better understand the tasting of the wines. So we're right at 7 o'clock. We're right at a half hour. And this is the first day that we're going to start doing Wine Explorer next. right at 7 o'clock. So we are going to jump off, but before we do, if you're not joining us for the Wine Explorer, if there were any unanswered questions, you can find them on the homepage. It's going to be under MWS Decant, and it'll say WineCAST number 7. All the questions will be there with the answers by tomorrow morning. Also, we do a wine quiz every week for each level. And there's a prize for that top score. And trust me, it's like 5 questions, and they're multiple choice. And I'll give you a little inside scoop. There's only been about 2 or 3 people entering every week, so your chances of winning are really good. And this week, everyone who wins gets a can of Vineyard Fresh, which is a wine preservation kit. So if you can't get through all the wines tonight, then you can use just 2 squirts of that, and you've got a good wine for tomorrow night, too. And then finally, if you watch tonight and you didn't have the wine, we can remedy that. If you're watching it live, right under the screen there, there's a button with a wine bottle. Now, I'm working on getting a spigot on your computer, so you press it and just the wine comes out. But until I do that, the next best thing is to be connected to your local retailer. So check that out. We'll get you some wines for next week. So thanks for joining us tonight for Wine Newbies Intro to Wine Tasting. I'm Jessica Bell from My Wine School, where it's wine your way.